Man, I wish I could be a stock picker like Nancy. A day before investigation happens by our own government, Nancy sells some stock. Well, her husband does. And I guess coincidentally, he made a lot of money right before it started going way down, when all of a sudden the DOJ started investigating him. Man, I wish I could do that good when it comes to stock picking. I wonder how he's gotten so rich. Is it just me, or I think there's more to it? Now, today we're going to be talking about that. We're also going to be talking about Trump being vindicated because a whistleblower came out and actually admitted the truth about a certain date in January. Not only that, a former CDC director come out and said RFK actually is right. We were wrong. Now, when we start hearing truth, it scares a lot of people, because then when we start hearing truth, it realizes that who can we actually trust? That's a big deal. What about what's happening in New York? Mayor goes against Biden, all of a sudden gets indicted. It shows that sometimes these politicians, there may be a lot held on them and over their head, and all of a sudden when they try to push against the machine, all of a sudden these stories come out, kind of like it did with Trump and RFK. Not only that, Atlanta, man, Fannie Willis's man, he is running, nobody can find him. There's a lot of rumors swirling, and we need to talk about some of them today. And when things are proven true, it tells you that all the lies that we've heard actually means that we can't trust who we thought we could trust. Nice to have you. Hey guys, welcome to the Max. Thank you so very much for being here today. If you are new to the channel, go down here, press subscribe, ring the bell, and a big thumbs up if you like the content. It means the world to us. We humbly ask that you do that, especially after you watch the video. Tell us what you think about it, share it, and give us a thumbs up if you like it. Also remember, in just a few days, we're going to be giving away a nice gift just for you being a subscriber. We draw it, and then if you win, we send it out to you free of charge. So please make sure you are subscribed. Now, let's talk about the stories of the day, because they are very, very important. First, let's talk about what Leading Report just came out and said. It says former CDC director, Dr. Redfield, admits that RFK is right, and that the FDA, the NIH, and the CDC are captured, and they're influenced by special interest. Now, this is something that we've always said, but they push against the narrative. Like I told you earlier, when we realize that we distrust the people who have told us some narrative to then find out it wasn't true, fact check, we know now that we can't trust them. And it's amazing that some of the country wakes up to that and then some doesn't. So when Redfield comes out and actually says, as CDC, as NIH, as all these government agencies, just like congressmen, they get swayed by votes, by money, by power. And he came out and admitted it. And it's sad that it takes someone leaving their profession because they're scared to death to say something when they actually are working for the government, when they can actually make a difference. They wait until they're out, or they want to write a book. I want people to have backbones while they're serving. I want more Thomas Masseys. I want more people that are willing to stand up and actually be, someone who's got some skin in the game, who's willing to say, you know what, I'm just going to be honest with you. They're lying. That's what I like to hear. So this is encouraging. Great news that RFK was proven true. And to be honest with you, we all kind of knew that. It's good to hear it from, the one that actually was right next to all this going on. I just wish they would be a little bit more upfront with it when it actually takes place. Because what it is they're getting filthy rich, these scientists and all these people, and then really what it is they're just telling you false narratives for what they're being paid to say. I think about the USDA and FDA. It's amazing. They will sell you a box of cereal and tell you how safe it is, but tell you not to eat farm-raised eggs or raw milk. That's a problem. But it's because they're not being paid by people like homesteaders like me who raise cows to drink raw milk. They're paid by the big ag who is telling them, well, we need you to sell this wheat and grain that's GMO modified, so therefore cereal is very good for you. It's amazing what we actually find out when truth starts being released. It shows that we can't trust who we thought we could trust. Man, another big bombshell just dropped. Trump getting the best news he could. And again, one of the things that people like us, people that's watching right now, conservatives, saying, this is not a big story, I knew it. I knew this was what happened because that's what Trump said. But again, being vindicated because they hear the truth now. A whistleblower came out and put a massive blow on the Democrats, backing Trump's story about what actually happened on that dark 6th day of January, where he did call for peacefulness. He did call for National Guards. And guess what? They were turned down by Milley. They were turned down by Pelosi. And the whistleblower now has come out saying, you know what? Fact check, true. Trump was right. He did call for this, and they chose not to provide it. So again, we come back to hear this narrative from government to find out that it was not true. Don't you see this pattern? And the whole point of this is we're just building up. We're just building this pattern to show that, when they tell us that this is good for us, or they tell us that, the sugar is good for us and eggs are not, when they tell us that we need to make sure that we listen to them in legacy media and what they're telling us, we realize it's all a farce. It's all a farce. Because what happens is that actually what they're trying to do is tell you what they want you to believe. And sadly, there's people who still believe it. To this day, I'm walking around Florida when a hurricane's supposed to come, and I'm getting things I need and filling up gas. And you know what? There's still people not wearing one mask. They're wearing two. Double masking. There's still people talking about how they can't wait to get their 8th or 9th or 10th one because they believe the narrative. I think of Mark Cuban. I always think all these guys probably have something on them because you cannot tell me somebody that's rich and a billionaire like him and smart and innovative believes what he believes about how Kamala's going to save the world and be the new Superman and Wonder Woman and whatever else he wants to say, and how Trump is the bad guy. He calls him a socialist, calls him like Bernie Sanders. What? So that's what, when I hear people like Mike Pence go against Trump, or when I hear people like Mark Cuban, it makes me think, well, you're just like everybody else. You've been bowled off. Now, that brings me up to the next story, New York governor. The New York governor, Eric Adams. At first, if you remember, when he first got elected, he wanted to be more of a centrist. He wanted to back the police because he was a police. He wanted to have support and unity back into his communities. And slowly and surely that all went by the wayside, and he became just like the rest of the leftist agenda. Now, the thing is this. What did he start doing? He didn't get more conservative. He just got more to where he started thinking for himself. Well, if you remember, he came out just a few weeks ago and he started really pushing against this migrant situation. He really started making sure that Biden knew he was a critic of him. Then, bam, all of a sudden, his people start dropping like flies, as in getting in trouble with the law. All of a sudden, raids happen. All of a sudden, now he's indicted on criminal charges. Not happened, really, especially to a Democrat, for years and years and years and years. But he pushed against the machine. I think that's why you're not going to hear Cuban. You're not going to hear people like Mike Pence or the Bushes or Romney. You're not going to hear Kinzinger and Cheney and all these people push against the machine because they know the machine will eat them up and spit them out. I think that's what happens with a lot of these people. Mark Milley, like all these high-ranking officials, is they get wrapped up in this machine, thinking they're doing something well. All of a sudden, they're just covering up the lies and really the untruths that they're telling the American people, all because they want power and money. I love hearing Redford say, yeah, RFK was right. But again, I want to hear it from people that are actually serving. Wouldn't it be amazing to hear people like Massey, if all of a sudden we started having Masseys in Congress, more than just one, if we started having Masseys in leadership and establishment government, and all these places like the DOJ or FEMA or the NIH, and they start talking, wouldn't that be amazing? I think we'd hear a lot of crazy stories, and really how a lot of the things that we talk about as conservative traditionalists, that, oh wow, we were actually right. Kind of like the Trump vindication on J6. Kind of like the situation where Eric Adams is actually being wise and saying, you know what? I can't handle these migrants. And he tried for a long time, and all of a sudden he's like, I can't handle them anymore. You got to quit sending them. Bam. Indictment gets done, criminal charges against him. I think that's what happens. I think that's what people like Epstein and Diddy and some of those guys, I think that's exactly what they do. They get you in those tight spots, and they coerce you, and all of a sudden, just like lobbyists, they hook you on to the puppet master, and then they pull your strings when they want you to dance. if you choose to pull against that, they'll find a new puppet. That's what happens. 2 more stories and we're going to wrap this up. As I said, the very first of the video about Nancy Pelosi, she's one of the puppet masters. You got to believe that. She actually said that she was the one that kind of helped Biden see his way out for retirement. But you can't tell me this is not dishonest and insider trading. And Republicans and Democrats do this. Mike McCall, Republican, my representative, I heard Michael Guest does it too. They ran a special on some of these guys, Republican and Democrats, on Blaze TV not too long ago, on conservative media not too long ago. But what it is these people are getting fed information and then all of a sudden making trades based on that. That's called illegal. But for some reason, our Congress can do that. It's kind of like term limits. You know, if they would vote against themselves to have term limits, we'd actually have a better America. If they vote against lobbyists, we'd have a better America because then they would not get fat in pockets to sway votes. If all of a sudden they couldn't do insider trading and found it illegal like they would if it was just me or you doing it, it would hurt their money. I mean, but did you hear that? I mean, again, you can call it coincidence, but Nancy Pelosi and her husband, you know, they sold $500,000 worth of Visa stock just one day before the DOJ announced that they were going to start investigating Visa. You think that was a coincidence? It's funny how these coincidences happen, and it's funny how no one's going to no one's going to say anything about it. It's kind of like the Soros situation with the FCC yesterday we talked about. I mean, we literally have a man who is buying and going to try to destroy conservative media, and you would think the FCC would have a problem with him buying such a monster part of the business, but no, they're going to cover their eyes to it and let Soros do just what he wants to do. We are fighting a system. We are not fighting one person. We're fighting a system that is completely broken, and they want to keep it broken because they can benefit from it and keep you down. So now it's time for us to wake up and be smarter than this. I mean, for instance, corruption. I mean, look at, they can't even find Fannie Willis's man, the Attorney General. Now, hopefully they'll find him. I hope he's okay, but he's missing because he's supposed to show up for court. It's amazing how all the people that bring charges against Trump end up being caught in the same red-handed stuff that they try to get him on. It just shows that truth will come out. Sadly, it does take a little bit of time sometimes, but it does end up coming out. Now, my challenge to you is you find the truth. You seek truth. You get the story, and all of a sudden you hear the story, and you're like, I don't know if I can believe that. Then you do the research. When we can be spoon-fed and feel like we're like babes and like we're still trying to make sure that people can give us what we want to hear, then we believe what we want to believe. But when we start doing the research and digging in a little bit, for instance, I'm not an Eric Adams fan at all. I think he's probably is corrupt, just like most politicians. But is this really a big deal to bring up to him now? Nope. And guess what? Honestly, as a conservative, I believe they would have never brought it up if he didn't push against the machine. Kind of like Cuomo. If you remember Andrew Cuomo, don't like the guy, didn't like the guy, still don't like the guy. But do you think they'd have brought charges up if he would have not pushed against the machine? Nah. He pushed against the machine and bam, indictments. Bam, allegations. And now he is no longer governor because of that. Push against the machine. Now I'd love to see some of these conservatives push against the machine, but I think they're too scared too. So hopefully we'll see more people like the Massies and people like that. The Rand Paul stand up, Ron Paul stand up and be really just on fire for truth. Because I think that's what American people are wanting. They're starving for a common sense, wise approach to truth. That's all I want. Truth. And to be honest with you, it really starts with us voting for these crappy people. No offense, but a lot of the conservative states have the most establishment candidates that are part of the system because we just don't primary them like they should be. Mississippi has several. Texas has several. Florida has several. Several of these states that are conservative states have some of the worst representation because all they care about is their insider trading and not actually representing you. And we won't primary them because we're like, hey, well, they're better than the Democrats. Really, are they? That's something you should think about. Guys, let me know your thoughts on these stories. Trump, huge news for him because what it does is just shows that he was right. And guess what? Legacy Media's not going to cover it, though. So it takes you sharing that information and saying, look, find the truth. Dr. Redford, RFK was right. Find the truth, because the media's not going to share that. That's what we want to hear, is truth. And when we seek truth, we start realizing, boy, they lied to us. What was their reason to lie to us? More to it. Guys, thank you so much for watching. Let us know what you think about the content of today. And we love that you support us each and every day. And we humbly ask that you share our content and give us a thumbs up. God bless y'all.